this is who I am, because what we have in the objects that we have, um, and the clothes we wear, everything tells us a little bit about ourselves. And one of the books that is on the little table is called "Can Art Change the World?" And I firmly believe that art can change the world. Art does change the world, and we are here together, working, and we will be making some art. And and I thought, wow, that's pretty telling. That's a great book to have right there. Can art change the world? The other book is Carl Jung's Red Book, and I'll learn from each of you, your backgrounds. But Carl Jung, that Red Book is a very big, very heavy book, and that contains his art and his writing. It's essentially, it was a journal that he did not publish while he was alive. And so I think it's very interesting, and it was very intimate for him to do that. The next book is the Book of Symbols, because as symbols, I mean, everything is symbolic, right? And there are so
Are
many.
two of my favorites.
Oh, see? And and symbols are all around us, and I think they mean something to each person. And so that book says that, but also will say, well, sometimes when you think of, say, a pumpkin, what does that mean? Everybody has their own different version of what a pumpkin may be, right? And the other book is a children's book called Wonderstruck, and I love that word because I think we should try to be wonderstruck every day. um, the beauty and joy that we see. And sometimes where we're living, it could be at war, it could be whatever the high stress, politics, all of that things, and everything going on. It is sometimes hard to be wonderstruck or find the beauty in something, but that's something that today, in our like 2 hours together, that we'll be talking about. The other book is called Grimm's Fairy Tales, and I think storytelling, and that's what today is, storytelling and our roots and our youth and going back to something positive. So there's a lot of memories that people might have, and I want to make that clear too, that it could be traumatic. We have memories of loss, grief, all of those things as a child. But today, for the time we're together, we're going to be thinking about and focusing on those memories that bring us hope and joy or encouragement. Somewhere in our lives, there was someone who encouraged us and someone influenced us at an early age, even if it wasn't a parent. It might have been a neighbor, it could have been a stranger. And that's the beauty of that too, is to always look for that goodness despite hardship. And the other, uh, I took it off the table. Um, this is a big I. And I always think it's all how we perceive things, and our eyes are they say window to the world, but the idea of sometimes what we see could be changed as well. So it's how we perceive things. And there's an old, it's a orange, and it has a 5 on it, and that is an old ashtray. I don't smoke, but I'm fascinated by the past. And I grew up in a family where my father smoked, and I always think of ashtrays. I grew up passing out ashtrays and putting them out when my parents had a party. And I always thought it was like a good festive thing to put ashtrays out because all these people are going to come. I thought, how funny, an ashtray. But the symbolic meaning to me with an ashtray means something very different to other people. But I saw that at like a used little store, and I thought, oh, I like that. And then the tall orange thing is actually a light. And I always think we need the perception, we need to see things, and then sometimes we need a light to make things a little bit brighter. So that's in my background. And the other one is that painting. I did not do that painting, but um, it's of a face, and it's not always, it looks a little skewed. And I always think sometimes we don't always feel good, right? It's okay. And that expressing ourselves is a good way to take what's out inside and put it towards out. So that being said, it's just a little bit of where I am and who I am. And So I'm a fourth generation Chicagoan. So city life is part of who I am, and my children, grown children, are fifth, and they live in Chicago. And then my grandchildren, there's six generations of us in Chicago, and I attended Adler University, which is in Chicago, and I started there in 1999. So I've been at Adler as a student and then working for over 25 years. So um, and my background is an Adlerian, but that doesn't mean I only think like an Adlerian, but I really like the philosophy, and so I will talk about a little bit about that. And my background is in hospitals and working with in schools with children, but the problem of a child or problem of one is problem of everyone. So really you're dealing with the family and everyone in it. And so I always felt that if I could deal with the worst of the worst situations, I can I can do anything. If I've been able to experience that, um, I, I wanted that. So I worked with children who had cancer and tumors, and I worked at the Children's Hospital in Chicago and doing art therapy and counseling. I'm a psychologist as well, and it was not it's not easy, but I truly love that, and because of sometimes what I learned, right? We learned from one another, and I also worked at another children's hospital that focused on orthopedic problems, spinal cord injury, the paralyzed, children with craniofacial abnormalities and syndromes, and things that go awry with people with physicalness and also then obviously emotionally. So I've done a lot of work in therapeutic day schools in Chicago. I could go on and on, but I don't want to because this is about your time. But you'll see why I think it's so important to always go back to our roots. Will make visible your art, and it will honor, as in the words of, I wanted to say, I love how you said together voices, and together we aspire to co-create a space of cultural exchange, collective inspiration, and global connection. And I think we just did that just by introducing ourselves. So the work we do today, and guys, these are your words, makes visible your work and honors your voice as a vital thread in the story. And then I thought of childhood early recollections. So this is a call to gather, to witness, and to be witnessed. And we are honoring our roots by exploring our childhood. And I want to really focus on the positiveness of that, and that we're not doing therapy together with each other. We're working on our own self, but I want to really focus on something from the past that was um, a positive early recollection. And so, as you know, and maybe you don't, but Alfred Adler was an Austrian medical doctor. And I love the fact that he studied neurology and he also studied ophthalmology. Again, the idea of how we see, this is just a little dish, how we see and our perception of things is so important. But the nice thing is, well, that he also believed that the ability to change and the ability to work on ourselves. And I think we all know that that's so important. So he was a therapist and founded the school of individual, but really indivisible, like a holistic psychology, where we treat the whole person, right? And that's something I want to work on today is really focus on the role of early experience to inform kind of our personal goals and our lifestyle. Like how we move through life is often um, our guiding force is based on these early recollections. So, early recollections is a course in itself, but we're going to smash it in this little time so that we can all experience what that is, and it really emphasizes kind of like our creative capacity to kind of shape and to be able to change our lives. So I'm fascinated by stories and how we do that.